I wish I could say I walked in on my husband giving a woman a ring because it was some kind of innocent mistake, that it was something easily explained away. But there was nothing innocent about it, nothing easy. And the more I think about it, the more I realize how little I knew, how much I was kept in the dark, and how much my whole world was about to shatter. It all started with the invitation. It wasn't one of those surprise parties you hear about. No, it was an event I was well aware of. An exclusive yacht party, hosted by one of his business associates, a man I'd heard him talk about too many times to count. To the outside world, it was just a high-profile networking event. But my husband seemed overly excited about it. In fact, he'd been so enthusiastic that he practically begged me to come. He even arranged a special dress for me, something he insisted I wear, something I would have never picked out for myself. It was beautiful, no doubt. The color was perfect for my complexion. The cut made me feel like I could glide across the room without a care in the world. But at the same time, I couldn't shake this nagging feeling that something was off. At first, I shrugged it off, chalking it up to my own insecurities, the little voice in my head telling me that maybe I was being paranoid. After all, my husband had always been supportive of me. He was affectionate, loving, and he doted on me in a way that seemed almost too good to be true. He knew how to make me feel like the only woman in the world. But the invitation, it just didn't feel like a typical evening out. The day of the event arrived, and I was still trying to shake off that odd feeling. My husband, ever the charming host, was full of energy as we boarded the yacht. His excitement was contagious, and I let myself get swept up in the occasion, trying to ignore the weight in the pit of my stomach. As we mingled with the other guests, he was his usual self, talkative, charming, the life of the party. He introduced me to a few of his business partners, some of whom I had met before, but there was one woman who caught my attention. She was stunning, with dark, silky hair that cascaded over her shoulders, her skin glowing even in the low light of the yacht's elegant deck. I didn't think much of her at first. After all, my husband was surrounded by beautiful women all the time. It was part of the world he worked in. But there was something in the way he interacted with her that unsettled me. The easy laughter, the flirtatious tone, the way he leaned in a little too close when he spoke to her. It was subtle, but it didn't go unnoticed. I tried to dismiss it. Maybe I was overthinking things. But then, the party seemed to shift. People began gathering around, making room for something, and I could hear hushed whispers. I followed the crowd. My curiosity piqued, but a sense of dread started to settle in my chest. Something was happening, something big. As I moved closer to the center of the attention, I saw my husband. He was standing beside that woman, the one who had caught my eye earlier, holding her hands in his. And there it was in his hand, a small velvet box. I froze. I knew what that box was. I didn't need to see the diamond glinting under the low lights to understand what was about to unfold. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. "Will you marry me?" he asked, his voice soft but clear, as if the entire world around us had fallen silent. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My mind raced, trying to comprehend what was happening. Was I hearing this correctly? Was I dreaming? Did my husband just propose to another woman? Time seemed to stretch on forever as I stood there, rooted to the spot. It felt like everything around me had gone still, like the world had paused just for me to absorb this cruel reality. The woman smiled, so warmly, so lovingly, as she gazed up at him, and for the briefest moment, I thought I might faint. The crowd cheered, clapping, their excitement mingling with the hushed whispers that seemed to grow louder by the second. But I couldn't hear any of it. My ears were ringing. All I could focus on was the woman's smile, the gleam in her eye, the way my husband looked at her like she was the center of his world. And then I saw the ring. The diamond caught the light in such a way that it seemed to mock me. It sparkled, blinding me. In its brilliance, it was the same kind of ring I had always dreamed of, elegant, understated, a piece of jewelry that carried weight, that symbolized commitment, love, everything I thought I had with him. But I had none of that. None of it. I felt my heart race as a knot tightened in my stomach. I couldn't process it. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But I couldn't move, couldn't speak. All I could do was watch as the woman took the ring, her fingers trembling slightly, her face lit up with joy. She accepted his proposal. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. I turned to leave, my legs unsteady as I tried to put distance between myself and the scene unfolding in front of me. But I couldn't escape. Not yet. Not when everything I thought I knew was crumbling before my eyes. I retreated to the side of the yacht, my back pressed against the cool railing, my breath coming in short gasps. My mind raced, trying to catch up with the tidal wave of emotions crashing through me. How long had this been going on? How long had my husband been lying to me? What else didn't I know? As I stood there, feeling the wind whip through my hair, I heard footsteps approaching. It was him, my husband. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice far too casual, far too calm for someone who had just given another woman an engagement ring in front of me. I turned to face him, my body trembling with anger and hurt. I wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but instead I took a deep breath, gathering every ounce of strength I had left. "Who is she?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me about the secret life you've been living?" He looked at me, his eyes wide with shock, his expression faltering for a moment before he regained his composure. "It's not what you think. You don't understand." "Don't understand?" I interrupted, my voice rising. "You've been hiding this from me for God knows how long. How could you do this to me?" He opened his mouth to speak again, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear the excuses, the justifications, the lies. Not anymore. I turned away, wiping my eyes, trying to steady myself. But deep down I knew this moment, this devastating revelation, would change everything. The yacht, once a place of luxury and excitement, now felt suffocating. The people around us, oblivious to the storm that had just erupted, continued to laugh and drink, completely unaware of the chaos that had just shattered my reality. And in that moment I made a decision. I wasn't going to let him control this. I wasn't going to let him get away with this. Not now. Not ever. I walked away from him before he could say another word. I couldn't listen to him anymore. He had lied to me for too long, and now the truth was standing in front of me as glaring and impossible to ignore as the diamond ring that woman was wearing. I needed space. I needed time. Time to think, to process, to figure out what came next. Yeah, felt like it was suffocating me, the laughter and chatter around me nothing but background noise to the pounding of my heart. I stepped out onto the open deck, the cool sea breeze hitting my face as I clung to the railing, my fingers gripping the cold metal as if it could anchor me in this whirlwind of emotions. But the truth was, there was no anchor. There was no solid ground. I had built my life around him, around the man I thought I knew, the man I thought I loved. But now, everything felt like a lie. My whole world, our marriage, the life we'd built together had been nothing but a facade, a carefully constructed lie that he had maintained, hidden behind charming smiles and sweet words. I didn't know how long I stood there, lost in my thoughts, my mind spinning. The yacht was still, cruising through the dark waters, the lights from the city twinkling on the horizon, but none of it felt real anymore. My hands shook, and I fought back the tears that threatened to spill over. But even through the ache in my chest, even with everything unraveling, I knew one thing: I couldn't let him get away with this. I took a deep breath and tried to steady myself. I couldn't let my emotions get the better of me. I needed a plan. I needed control. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but one thing was for sure: I wasn't going to confront him here, not in front of all those people. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me fall apart in front of an audience. If he wanted to ruin me, he would have to do it on his own time, not in front of an entire party. I turned back towards the cabin, my heart pounding as I walked, the air suddenly feeling heavier, thicker with each step. The door slid open, and I stepped back inside, trying to appear calm. My husband was still standing near the crowd, talking animatedly to a few people. He looked like nothing had changed, but everything had changed. And now it was time to deal with it. I walked towards him, my mind made up. When he saw me, his face fell slightly, as if he'd been expecting me to make a scene. He opened his mouth to speak, but I held up my hand, silencing him. "Let's talk," I said, my voice steady, my heart racing in my chest. "I need to hear it from you." He didn't respond immediately, but I could see the guilt creeping into his eyes. It was too late for apologies. I didn't want his remorse. I wanted the truth. "We're leaving," I said firmly. "Now." I didn't give him a chance to argue. I turned around and started walking toward the exit, my heels clicking against the marble floor. I heard him calling my name behind me, but I didn't stop. Not this time. We reached the dock, and I could feel the weight of his presence behind me as we stepped off the yacht and onto solid ground. It was like we were stepping into a new reality, one where nothing was the same anymore. The world felt distorted, like I was living in someone else's life. "You can't just walk away from this," he called after me, his voice a mixture of anger and desperation. "You don't know what you're doing." I whirled around to face him, my emotions bubbling to the surface. "You think I don't know what I'm doing?" I snapped. "You think I'm just going to pretend everything's fine? That I can just ignore what I saw?" His expression faltered, and for a brief moment I saw something close to shame flash in his eyes. But then he recovered, and I could see the familiar, manipulative streak that had always lurked beneath the surface. "I never wanted you to find out like this," he said, his voice low. "But she's different, okay? She's the one I've been talking to. She's—" "Don't," I interrupted, my voice trembling with fury. "Don't you dare try to make this about her. This is about you. This is about what you've done to me, to us." I could see the realization hit him. The control he had always held over me was slipping away, and he didn't know how to handle it. "I made a mistake," he said, taking a step toward me. "But we can fix this. We can." "No," I said, cutting him off again. "No more excuses. You don't get to fix this. Not this time. You've lied to me, you've betrayed me, and I'm done." His face twisted with frustration, but I didn't flinch. "You're going to regret this," he warned. I felt the heat of his words, but I stood firm. "No, I won't. I'm finally free." I turned to leave, my feet carrying me away from him and towards a future I couldn't yet imagine, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let him control me any longer. I wasn't going to let him dictate the terms of my life. As I walked away, I knew there would be more battles ahead. There would be hard conversations, difficult decisions, and maybe even more heartbreak. But for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope, a small, fragile thread of light that told me I could start over. And I was ready